A very good morning, students. Welcome back to online session on programming for problem solving course. In our previous session, we discussed the multi-way selection concept. After the dangling else problem, we we have given a solution to that dangling else problem. We said by using compound statements, we can solve the problem of dangling else problem. So then after we discussed the multi-way selection statements like your else if ladder and the switch case statement. So switch case statement, we said whenever if you don't have a proper condition, I mean a condition which is not giving the result as an integer value, okay, because when we are framing a condition, we are expecting it to be a boolean value or boolean value equivalent. So if you know these boolean values perfectly, you can understand that inside boolean values we can have only two possible cases. Either it can be a true case or it can be a false case. And your integers will also represent these two cases. So like if the result of a condition is 0, it will represent the boolean false. And if the result of a condition is a non-zero value, that is other than 0, either it can be a positive value or it can be a negative value, it represents the true case. Okay. So likewise, your boolean values as well as your integers, they can be if you have such a thing, you can go for the regular way of framing the decision makings, like your simple if statement, if else statement, nested if else statement, or else if ladder. But if you don't have any such thing, if you don't have the boolean expression result in your condition, then you have to go for switch case. Okay, over there what we are doing, we are framing an expression in this switch case statement, and based on that expression result, and we already seen that the expression result, it is not always to be an integer or not always to be a boolean value. The expression result, it can be a character value or it can be a string, it can be other than that. Okay, it can be an other than your boolean and integer values. Okay, so based on the expression results, you can frame the cases inside your switch case statement. For every possible expression result, you can frame a suitable case inside your switch case statement. But if your expression is giving more than the values which you are expecting, then what we are doing, we are framing a default case, and the specified values will be handled by the suitable cases, and the extra values, the extra outputs from your expression will be solved by this default expression, isn't it? So if you, I mean, we have seen an example of printing the color by the first letter of the color name. Okay, by the first letter of the column, we are reading the first letter of the color from the keyboard, and we are printing the complete color name. So let us that is nothing but, if you are inputting R, we are printing red as color. If you are inputting blue B, we are printing the color name as blue, and if you are inputting G, we are printing the color name as green. So only three possible cases we have handled inside our switch case statement. Only three possible cases. But we know we have plenty of colors in our day-to-day life, and we are not solving all those colors. So if the user comes to your application, and if the user enters any other color, and if he is expecting the color name, let us say white, W for white, we have not solved that particular case in our program. So if the user inputs W and expects white as color, does our program solves that particular case? No, it will not solve. So rather what it will do, it will processes the default statement. Okay, default case, it will processes the default case, and it will give that invalid choice or invalid option error message to the end user. So in that way, only to specific cases, what are our intended cases, only for those cases we are writing the code, and other cases, I mean, what are other values from the universe we are having, all those values we are handling with the default case. Okay, hopefully you understood that switch case concept, and in every case of your switch case we are using the break statement as the last statement, break statement as the last statement, so as to avoid the control from entering other cases. So let us I mean, this is to understand, if your expression is giving the solution for case 1, let us assume if the expression is taking the control to case 1. So if there is no break statement inside case 1, then what will happen? The control will process statement, I mean case 1, then after case 2, case 3, likewise it will process all the cases from your switch case statement. So it is a problem. So I mean, the switch case statement, it has to evaluate only the case which is suitable for your expression result, okay, or your choice, your option. Okay, it has to satisfy, it has to execute only the case which you have, which your expression is giving, or which your choice is giving. So if it is processing all the cases, means it is a meaningless thing, it is a what we call rubbish thing. So we have to avoid such a thing by simply making use of this break statement at the end of every case. So what this break statement will do means, whenever the control enters into a particular case and executes that particular case, after executing that case we are entering this break statement as the last statement. So simply the control will jump from that break statement to out of the block, out of the switch block. Okay, so that is what happened in case of a break statement, and about this break and continue statement we discuss in detail after this loops discussion. Okay, so in today's session, after this multi-way selection statements, we have to discuss the iterative statements. Those are nothing but your loops. Okay, we have to discuss in today's session, we have to discuss iterative statements. Those are nothing but your loops. Okay, so we quickly go and we see what are we have over there. So nested if else, then dangling else problem. In yesterday's class we discussed this one. Then the else if ladder we discussed, it is a multi-way selection statement. Then switch statement or switch case statement we discussed, it is also a multi-way selection statement. Okay, then loops in C are repetition. We also call them as iterative statements because they are helpful in achieving the repetition. They are helpful in achieving the repetition in our program. So generally, with the help of these conditional statements or decision making statements, what we are doing, either we are considering a block of code into an extra block of code into our execution, or we are skipping a block of code. In two ways we can say, either we are considering or we are skipping a block of code from execution or from consideration in our program execution. Okay, so generally what it will do or how it will process the decision making statement in the sense. Okay, so let us say in general how the program flow will be, how the program execution will be. So let us say if you have statements written inside your program, so like this, statement 1, statement 2, statement 3 and so on, you have written some statements like this. Okay, so let me just, okay, like this we have written statements in our program. So without any control structure. So what we are saying them, what we are saying conditional statements or iterative statements as, we are saying them control structures. Control structures. So these control structures, they are of two types. We said the first one, we have different names to this first one. We call them as decision making statements. Decision making statements. And we also call them as conditional statements. Conditional statements. conditional statements likewise. And the second type of control structures what we have are the iterative statements and there is other name like repetitive statements. Repetitive or iterative, repetitive, or in short we call them as loops. Loops. Okay. Control structures in that decision making statements are conditional statements, iterative statements are repetitive statements are loops. Okay, two types of two types of control structures we have. See, without the control structure, or without these decision making statements or iterative statements, my program flow will be sequential. My program flow will be sequential. So what do you mean by sequential? Sequential in the sense it will execute all my statements from the beginning to end in a sequential order. It will start from the beginning and it will continue with all these statements and it will stop at the end without any skipping or without any repetition. Without skipping. Skipping in the sense it will not skip any particular statement from these statements, or without repetition. It will not repeat. All statements will be executed exactly once. Okay, without any repetition. Concept is very clear. Sequential statements, without control structures, my program flow will be sequential because all my statements will be considered as sequential statements. Okay, so all statements will be executed in a sequential order without any skipping of the statements or without any repetition of these statements. No statement will be skipped or no statement will be repeated more than once. Okay, more than once in my in my control flow. So to get the what we call skipping or to get the repetition, we have to go for control structure. So suppose if you want some of the statements based on the condition, if you want some of the statements to be skipped from your consideration or from the program control consideration, simply we have to go for decision making. And if you want some of the statements to get repeated more than once, some of the statements to get repeated more than once, then we have to go for iterative statements. Okay, concept is very simple. Without any control structure, the program flow will be sequential. Okay, statement to statement, all statements will be executed sequentially without any skipping of the statements and without any repetition of the statements. But if you want to have skipping and repetition in your program based on your problem requirement, based on your what we call program coding requirement, then we have to go for control structures. The first control structure type is decision making statements, where a set of statements or a single statement or a set of statements will be skipped from your program control consideration. And the second type of control structures are iterative statements. In iterative statements, what will happen? Some of the statements, they will be repeated. One statement or some of the statements, they will get repeated more than once. Okay, more than once. In both the cases, when you are writing your decision making statements or when you are writing your control structure, when you are writing your iterative statements, in all the control structures, in short we can say, in all your control structure, only one statement is allowed. You can put only one statement. If you have more number of statements, simply make them like a bunch using compound statement and add them. Okay, bunch is nothing but it will be considered like a single statement only. Over here, when you are using the compound statement and when you are making the bunch of statement, all that bunch will be considered like a single statement only. So we are not violating the rule of your control structure. Rule of your control structure, what it is saying? It will accept only one statement at any point of time. It will accept only one statement at any point of time, and that thing we are achieving with the help of compound statement. So compound statement, now it is having two purposes. One, to solve the dangling else problem. Okay, the other to make the more number of statements like a single bunch, like a single unit, or to treat them like a single statement, we can say. Okay, so this thing you have to understand. Without skipping, without repetition, all statements will be executed without control structures. So if you want skipping, go for decision making, and if you want repetition, go for uh, iterative statements. Decision making will make your program to skip, will make your program control to skip some of the statements. Iterative statements to make your program control to repeat some of the statements more number of times, to repeat some of the statements more number of times. Okay, this is we are achieving with the help of iterative statements. So that concept, repetition in your C program. So as I said, generally the program flow will be sequential. To achieve repetition, we have to go for this repetitive statement. Repetition is nothing but, let us say you have three statements, 1 2 3, and generally without loop the program flow will be sequential. And if you put a loop over here, if you put a loop, if we are adding a loop, then what will happen? If we are adding a loop over here, the loop will be followed by a condition. Loop always will be followed by a condition. So as long as this condition is true, as long as this condition is true, these body of the loop, whatever we are mentioning inside the body of the loop, those statements will be repeated. So first what will happen? First the control will come over here. Okay, then it will check the condition, and if the condition is true, it will repeat the body, it will execute the body. And why we are saying repetition means, after executing the body, again it will come back and check the condition. Again it will come back and check the condition. Once again the condition is true, again it will enter into the body and check the condition. Like that, it will execute repeated number of times. The same statements will be executed for repeated number of times as long as your condition is true. Once the condition becomes false, once whatever condition you have specified over here, it becomes false, then what will happen? The control will exit this loop. The control will exit this loop. It will not enter into the body for execution. Simply it will execute the statements after the loop whatever we have. After the loop whatever we have, it will continue with that one and it will execute that one. The program control will execute that one. Simply we can say it will come out of, it will exit from this loop, from this loop execution. So why we are saying it as a loop means, because it is executing the statements repeatedly, repeated number of times. Okay, without doing any other thing, it is simply busy with that statements inside the body of the loop only. Okay, that is the reason we are calling it as a loop. Loop is something that you do repeatedly. Loop is something that you do repeatedly. Okay, the production of the production process inside a company will be done in a kind of loop process, isn't it? Always they have to start the production, they have to end the production, again they have to come back and they have to start the production of other item. So likewise they will do this production in a repeated scenario, repeated manner. We can call that as a loop. So here also, whatever statements we are writing inside the body of the loop, they will be executed for repeated number of times as long as your condition is true. Once the condition becomes false, the control will exit from that loop. So only this concept you have to remember in case of a loop inside your C program. So with this basic understanding, we'll go further and we'll see what types of loops we have in our C programming and what are their syntaxes and how we use those loops in our programming. All those things we discuss. Okay, so quickly, loops in C, repetition. With the help of these loops we are achieving repetition. Loops are nothing but an approach to repeat set of statements for specific number of times, and that repetition we will limit. We are not simply repeating that statement for an infinite number of times, isn't it? If you are repeating some set of statements for an infinite number of times, meaningless. That sort of code in your program, it is meaningless, isn't it? So what we have to do, we have to have a proper termination point for your loop, where the loop must exit, where the loop must stop its execution. That has to be decided. That has to be decided. So that is the reason why in the definition only we are saying loops are nothing but an approach to repeat a set of statements for a specific number of times. Specific in the sense defined number of times. It is not undefined. We are repeating the statements for a defined number of times. Okay. Every repetition is called as an iteration. We call it as an iteration. That is the reason why the whole concept we call it as iterative statements. Okay, every repetition is an iteration in the programming terminology. The real power of computers is their ability to repeat an operation or a series of operation many times. See, if you give the same work to a person, okay, if you give the same work to a person and if you ask him to do that same work repeatedly, after some time what will happen? He will get exhausted, isn't it? He will get exhausted and he will start to resist. Okay, he will start to resist. He will argue with you that he won't do any further the same work, he won't do any further. So that is the reason why we have computers in our day-to-day life. A computer is a what we call, it is a uh, very patient. I mean, it is having a lot of patience. I mean, whatever you give, whatever work you give to the computer, for the same work, if it will repeat for some n number of times without any exhaust. I mean, without getting exhausted. Okay, without getting exhausted. It will simply repeat the same work again and again, again and again, without any resistance and without showing any kind of exhaustance. Okay, so simply the real power. I mean, that is the reason why we are saying it as the real power of computers, because they are not resisting, they are not arguing with us. Okay, so how we are achieving this repetition process? In the sense, simply with the help of loops. You are giving some instructions to the computer to do, and you are keeping those instructions inside a loop so that those instructions will be repeated for some specific number of time. Okay, so this repetition is also called as looping. We also called it as looping. Okay, it is one of the basic structure of programming concept. I mean, these type of loops, if you understand over here at this basic level, believe me, as long as you are in CSC till your final year, you will study a lot of programming languages. Not only C, we will study C++, we will study Java, we will study Python, R. I mean, any programming language you go, I mean, like if you are going for any kind of assembly languages, like in your embedded systems or in your computer organization subject, I mean, those are related to your electronics stream. Over there also we study some of the programming languages. There also we use these loops. So once the concept of loop is clear to you, means it will be helpful. I mean, as long as you are in this particular stream. Okay, as long as you are in this particular stream, and even in your career, when you go for, there also you will use these loops. Okay, there also you will use these loops. That is the reason I'm stressing, I'm insisting you people to get the full clarity on these loops. Okay, so this repetition, I mean, whatever repetition we are doing with the help of a loop, we call it as an looping. Okay, we call it as looping, or we call them as iterative statements, repetitive statements. And this is one of the basic concept, I mean, basic structured programming concept. Okay, we use this loops, as I said, in your Python, R programming as well. The advanced level of programming languages, your Python, your R, there also we use these loops. And believe me, those loops are very, very near to these C loops. I mean, the Python loops, what we use, they are very near to the C loops. If you are proficient in C language, if you are good in C language, learning Python, it will become way easier to you. Way easier to you. So, after this, each loop must have an expression. Expression is nothing but the condition that determines the termination point. I mean, why we put that condition? Because with the help of that condition, the loop will come to know when to stop. The loop will come to know when to stop. So over here you can see, let us say if you are using only the loop, I mean, this is the regular flow. If you don't use a loop, how these actions, series of actions will be performed in a sequential order, it will be performed. If you use a loop over here, the process will get repeated. Okay, the process will get repeated. Here, if we are using a loop, so here we put a loop. And generally, I mean, if you are keeping this loop, what will happen? The process, After performing this complete action, again the control will come back to the loop. Again, the control will come back to the loop because it is a loop. So, yeah, over here, without the termination point, that is nothing but without the condition specification. If you have not specified the condition like this, then what will happen? The loop will enter into infinity. The loop will enter into infinity. That is nothing but it will execute these actions for infinite number of times. So that is the reason why we are keeping a condition over here, so as to have a termination point in our programming or in our loops. So as to have a termination point, we are keeping a condition over here. So now what will happen? Yeah, now the loop execution is dependent on the trueness, okay, or the positiveness of this condition. Whenever the condition becomes true, whenever the condition becomes positive, then only the body of the loop executed. Otherwise, what will happen? Simply the loop exists. Simply the loop exits. Not exist, exits. Okay, it will exits. Okay, like this. This is in case of true and this is in case of false. As long as the condition is true, the loop will continue with the body and and after completion of the body, again it will come back to the loop. Likewise, it will repeat. And once the condition becomes false, the control will exits, okay, from the loop. So this thing you remember. Each loop must have an expression that determines the termination point for the loop. Already we discussed. If there is no termination point specified, that is nothing but if there is no condition specified, then the loop will enter. The loop will iterate for infinite number of times. Without the condition, the loop will iterate for infinite number of times. The basic loop concept is shown in the following figure. I have shown this one. So as long as the condition is true, the loop will continue with the action statements inside the body. And once the loop, condition becomes false, the loop will exits. Okay, hopefully you understood this one. So yeah, loops in C language, they are broadly categorized like two types. Okay, one is the pre-test loops and the other one is post-test loops. Pre-test loops and post-test loops. Pre-test loops, inside pre-test loops, the condition will be checked before the body of the loop. Okay, in every loop we are going to have two things that we already discussed: a condition, a body. In every loop we are going to have two things: a condition, a body. Body is nothing but the repetitive statements. And condition is nothing but the number of times you specify. The condition will specify the number of times, how many times the loop should continue. And we said without the condition, the loop will enter into infinity. Okay, these concepts we already discussed. So with the conclusion over there is the loop will have two things. One is the condition and the other one is the body of the loop. Condition, body of the loop. And if the condition is coming before the body of the loop, we call them as pre-test loops. If the condition comes before the body of the loop, we call them as pre-test loops. And if the condition comes after the body of the loop, as I have shown in this following flow chart, if the condition comes after the body of the loop, we call them as post-test loops. Okay, hopefully this is clear to you. Condition coming before the body, we call them as pre-test loops. Here you can see pre-test loops. Condition coming before the body of the loop, we call them as pre-test loops. And condition coming after the body of the loop, we call them as post-test loops. Pre-test, post-test. The name itself giving the meaning over here. So pre-test in the sense, the condition will come before the body of the loop, or the termination point we specify before the body of the loop. And post-test in the sense, the condition will come after the body of the loop. And pre-test loops, we have two examples. In our C language, we have two such pre-test loops. They are, the first one is for loop, and it is the most important loop. The first one is the for loop, and the second one is while loop. For loop, while loop. And here, post-test loops, we have only one type, that is do while. Do while loop. Okay, remember this one. Pre-test loops, we have two in number. The first one is for loop and the second one is while loop. And post-test loops, we have only one type, that is do while loop. That is do while loop. Okay. So in pre-test loops, in every iteration, the condition will be checked or the condition will be tested before the body of the loop gets executed. So here, before entering into the body itself, the condition will be tested. In post-test loops, first the body, that means before checking the condition, at least one time the body of the loop will be executed. Here what will happen? Let us assume here what will happen. Here in the first iteration itself, that means before starting the execution of the body, the condition will be tested. Here, before the first iteration, the condition will be tested. And assume that in the first iteration itself, the condition is false. In the first iteration itself, the condition is false. Then how many times the body of the loop will be executed? 0 times. How many times the body of the loop will be executed? 0 times. Because in the first iteration only, my condition became false, so the control will not enter into the body of the loop. So the number of times my body of the loop will get executed when the condition is false in the first iteration itself is 0 in pre-test loops. The same thing in case of post-test. Let us assume in the first iteration only the body of the condition is false. Then what will happen? Here we are checking the condition after executing the body. After executing the body, we are checking the condition. So here what will happen? Yes, in post-test loops, even if the condition is false in the first iteration itself, the body of the loop executes at least once. The reason, after executing the body only, the condition is tested over here. After executing the body only, the condition is tested over here. Because of that reason, even if your condition becomes false in the first iteration, by that time, one time the body of the loop has been executed. So here, the minimum number of times the body of the loop gets executed is 1, and here the minimum number of times the body of the loop gets executed is 0. Remember this one. Here the minimum number is 0, here the minimum number is 1. That means at least once the body of the loop will be executed when you use this do while loop. And when you use this for loop and while loop, in the first iteration, if the condition becomes false, your body of the loop will not be executed even for one time. Your body of the loop will not be executed even for one time. So the minimum number of times the body of the loop will get executed in pre-test loop is 0, and in post-test loops it is 1. Remember this one. Okay. Then initializing and updating. See, in every loop we need to have these two things so as to make the condition false after a specific number of times. So I will make you understand this phenomenon very easily. Why we need initialization and why we need updation when we are talking about a loop. Okay, when we are talking about a loop. See, the conditions, how we are framing, by using the variables only we are framing. Let us say I am saying a must be lesser than 10. It is a condition. A must be or I must be, because many times we use I only in our loop. So I will use, instead of A, I will use I. Okay, remember this one. The change what I have done, I wantedly done that one. Okay, so I am using, so let us go to the whiteboard. So why the initialization and updation is required inside a loop, that I am explaining now. So that is initialization, the role of initialization and updation. Initialization and updation. The role of initialization and updation. Why it is having importance in case of loops, that I am explaining. See, we said the complete loop concept is dependent on the two things. The first one is condition, the second one is body of the loop. And we said based on this condition only, the first one is condition and the second one is body of the loop. Body of the loop is nothing but the statements what you are writing inside the loop. Okay, the first one is condition, the second one is body of the loop. body of the loop, and body of the loop, it must be one and only one statement. Okay, one and only one statement, one and only one statement. Remember this one. Body of the loop, the concept of loop, it is dependent on two things, condition and body of the loop. Condition is mandatory. Without condition, the loop will enter into infinity. The condition is the mandatory thing. And then body of the loop, it has to be, it has to be one and only one statement. If you have more number of statements, simply make them as block statement, block of statement. Okay. So the initialization, the role of initialization and updation, it involves with the condition only. Okay, the role of initialization, updation is in condition framing only. So why we need initialization and why we need updation, that's what we are discussing. So generally, when we are framing the condition, we are doing like this: I must be less than 20. It is a condition, isn't it? It is a condition. So what this means: I value must be less than 20. Then only this condition becomes true. Otherwise, it will become false. So let us say if you have not initialized I value, then what will happen? When you are using this condition with the loop, and if the I value is unknown, yeah, the condition, how it will check? If the I value is unknown, how come the loop will decide whether this condition is true or false if I value is unknown? So that is the reason why I value must be initialized. I value must be initialized when you are using this I value in your loop for framing the condition. When you are using this I in your loop for framing the condition, this I value must be initialized, or all the variables what you use inside the loop condition framing, they must be initialized. They must be initialized. Without initialization, what will happen? Yeah, it is very difficult for the compiler or for the programmer itself to guess the value of that I. So that is the reason why I initialization, the counter, we call all the variables which are participating in condition framing of a loop, we call them as counters. Okay, counters for the loop. Counters for loop. Okay, we call them as counters. Remember this terminology, it is very, very important. Counters. Okay. Counters are nothing but they are the variables which involved in the condition framing for a loop. So if the counters you have not initialized, then the condition will have no meaning. If you forgot to initialize the counters, the condition will not have any meaning. Okay, so that is the reason why the counters must be initialized. When I am using this I inside this condition, how can I know the I value without initialization? It is not possible. So that is the reason why I have to initialize I value. So let us say I am initializing the I value like int I equals to some 10. Int I equals to some 10. I have initialized my I value like this. So now what will happen? And I'm using this inside a loop. So far we have not discussed any loop. So I will write here loop only. Okay, like this I will write. So I am using this condition inside a loop, and inside the body I am writing some statements and I am closing. So now condition framing is successful and I value initialization is also successful. I value initialization is also successful. Condition framing is successful and I value initialization is also successful. So initialization we have done. So now we know the I value. Now we know the I value. 10 is less than 20. I value is 10. So 10 is less than 20. Condition is true. Condition is true. So what will happen? The control will enter into the body and executes the body. Executes the body. And after executing the body, again the control will come back to the condition for checking. Again the control will come back to the condition for checking. Again it will check. Again 10 is less than 20. Again the condition true. So likewise it will execute how many times? This loop will iterate how many times? If you frame the condition in that way, this loop will iterate for infinite number of times, because you're not doing any change in the I value, and in every iteration I value will be same, and whatever condition you are checking here, 10 is less than 20, it will remain same for all the iterations, and the condition will become true for all the iterations, and the loop will iterate infinite number of times. So there comes the importance of updation. There comes the importance of updation. Updation is nothing but changing I value so that after some iterations this condition will fail. After some iterations this condition will fail. So now what I have to do? I have to update this I value. So let us say that updation, how we do is with the help of increment and decrement operators. That updation we do with the help of increment and decrement operators. Increment, decrement operators we discussed already when we discussed the operators concept. So over here I am writing, simply I am writing, you see how I am doing the updation. Inside the body of the loop, what I am doing? I am writing the last statement. After writing all my statements, I am writing the last statement like I plus plus. That's it. I'm writing only this much. I plus plus. Now what will happen? I plus plus. So what does this I plus plus exactly means? I plus plus means I equals to I plus 1. This we have discussed over there. When we discussed increment and decrement operators, over there I have discussed. See, many students, they are approaching that they are not understanding the concepts of PPS. And one thing I just want to make it clear. See, if you don't follow the videos, if you don't attend the lectures, then ultimately it will become a headache to you, because all these concepts, whatever we discuss in PPS, they are interrelated. And moreover, this subject is the first time for you, isn't it? This subject, you have many CBSC, and if you are from other backgrounds like CBSC and all, there we have some sort of programming, and some people, they have done this C language in their 7th standard and Java in 10th standard, 12th standard. So for them it is not a difficulty. They have learned C, C++, Java also. The people who are having the background of CBSC, okay, for them it is not new. But for state syllabus, those who are coming from state syllabus, 10th standard SSC and junior inter, they have very minimum knowledge of this C language, and they need to work hard on this one. Okay, they need to work more on this programming language stuff. Okay, so this programming language, without practice you won't get anything. Like learning English, simply listening to the class, does it become familiar to you, English language? No, it will not become familiar. You have to use that English language in your day-to-day life, isn't it? You have to speak with your friends in English language. You have to, what we call, interact with others with the English language. Then only you will come to know this English language to some extent. In that same way, this PPS subject, we are learning a language only over here. We are learning a language, C language over here. So being a language, unless you make it practical, you won't get anything. Okay, believe me, unless you make it practical, you won't get anything. So that is the reason why I'm taking more time in explaining each and every concept. I am giving all the aspects, not a single short explanation I am giving and I am going to other concept. It is not like that. Whenever I am starting a simple concept, I am giving in-depth explanation on that one. All aspects we are discussing related to that particular concept. So you need to do the same work from your side. You need to, attend the lectures as well as practice this stuff on your computer. Then only you will understand. Okay, so here when we are using loops, and if you don't do the initialization, we have done, but we have not done the updation. If you don't do the updation, we said again the loop will enter into infinity. So that is, there comes the importance of this updation, and now we are discussing that updation. So I plus plus means updation is nothing but we are doing with the help of increment and decrement operators. That also we said. So like we are writing I plus plus, to do the updation in I value, we are writing I plus plus. So now I equals to I plus 1. I plus plus means I equals to I plus 1. So now how the iteration will continue, you just see. First what will happen? First it will enter into the loop, checks the condition. Initially I value is 10 because we are initializing here itself I value. So I value before the loop we are initializing. So I value is 10. 10 is less than 20. Condition is true. Then the counter will enter into the loop and executes all the statements. After executing the last statement, what it will do? It will do the updation in counter. It will do the updation in counter. So I equals to I plus 1 means now I value will become 11, isn't it? 10 equals to, I equals to 10 plus 1. 10 plus 1 is nothing but 11. So I value becomes 11 now. So 11, again it will continue with the next iteration. So it will check the 11 less than 20. Again the condition is true. So again it will complete the iteration. Now once again the loop will iterate and now the loop value will become, counter value will become 2. It will continue. Next 13. One more time it will continue. 14. One more time it will continue. 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Up to 19 it will continue. When the I value is 19, then the counter will go up and it checks the condition. 19 is less than 20. Condition is true once again. Again it will come into the loop, executes the loop, body of the loop. Then I plus plus we are saying. I value now it will become 20. So when I value is 20, again the control will go back to the condition and it will check the condition. 20 is less than 20. Condition is false now. Condition is false now. So what will happen? Ultimately the loop will exit. Ultimately the loop will exit. It will not enter into the body. Simply it will exist. So this is the importance of initialization and updation when we are dealing with loops. Okay? When we are dealing with loop. So we have to do the initialization before the loop, as you can see over here. The initialization where we have to do before the loop, before the body of the loop, we have to do the initialization, and updation where we have to do updation, we have to do as part of the body of the loop. As part of the body of the loop. So this is your body of the loop, and here only we are doing the updation. You can see. This is your condition. Here test is nothing but your condition. So this is initialization, this is updation. Initialization before the body of the loop we are doing, and updation within the body of the loop we are doing. And this thing we are doing in both pre-test as well as post-test in the same manner. Pre-test as well as post-test in the same manner. Okay, pre-test also we are doing, before the body of the loop we are doing initialization, and then we are framing the condition, and then inside the body we are doing updation. And over here in post-test loops, we do the initialization before the loop, and then we are writing the body of the loop, and finally the condition of the loop likewise. Okay, so how it will deal, when it is false, you can see over here in this particular flow chart, you can see when the condition is becoming false, what it is doing, it is coming out of the body. It is not going to the body and executing the body. It is simply coming out of the body. You can see over here. It is checking the condition over here. Test it is checking. And if test is false, then what it is doing? If test is false, it is simply coming out of the loop. It is simply exiting. It is not going to the body. But when the condition is true, it is entering into the body, executing the actions and updating the counter and repeating the process. Updating the counter and repeating the process. And how many times this will do? As long as your condition is true. As long as your condition is true, the same process will get repeated. The same process will get repeated in both pre-test as well as post-test. Here also same thing. First initialization, then actions, then updation, then testing. Condition will be test. If condition is true, it will continue with the next iteration. And it will do the same thing. It is a repetitive process. It is a repetitive process. And how many times this process will be repeated? As long as your condition is true. Once the condition false, it will exit. Once the condition is false, it will exist. So with the help of these flow charts, you can understand the concept of pre-test and post-test loops. Loops, repetition process. We said they are of two types. Pre-test loops, post-test loops. Pre-test loops, your for loop, while loop. Post-test loops, your do while loop. Then initialization, updation. The role of initialization and updation we have discussed. So now the comparison between pre-test and post-test loop. Pre-test and post-test loop. Initialization only once. How many times we are doing inside pre-test and inside post-test? All these things, how many times we are doing? All these things, how many times we are doing? If you see the initialization, In both the things, in pre-test as well as in post-test, the initialization we do only once. We do only once, and that too before the loop. Before the loop only we are doing. And then tests, how many times we are doing test condition, how many times. In case of pre-test, it is n plus 1, because before considering the body only, it will check the condition. Before checking, before executing the body, it will check the condition, and here after executing the body, it will check the condition. So over here, if the loop is repeating n number of times, the condition will be checked n plus 1 times. Okay, because for the false case also it will check the condition. For false case also it will check the condition. Okay, so that is the reason why number of times the condition will be tested is n plus 1 in case of pre-test loops, and in case of post-test loop it is exactly 1, because the first time it will not check the condition, it will skip the condition, it will not check the condition, because we are mentioning the condition after the body. So in the first iteration, after completing the iteration, it will check the condition. Hopefully you understood. Then actions, body how many times executed over here? N times. Over here also n times. Body of the loop, it will be executed in both the cases n times only. Update statement, whatever you are writing, it is a part of your body only, isn't it? Update statement we are writing as a part of body only. If the actions inside the body is executing n number of times, then updation will also be executed n number of times only. And over here, minimum iterations, minimum in the sense, if the condition is false in the first iteration itself, if the condition is false in the first iteration itself, then the minimum number of times that the body will get executed is 0 in case of pre-test, and the minimum number of times the body will get executed is 1 time in post-test loops. Okay, pre-test loops, the number of times, the minimum number of times the body will be executed is 0 if the condition fails in the first iteration itself. And in post-test loops, the minimum number of times the body will get executed is once, even if the iteration fails in first iteration itself. A condition fails even if the first iteration itself. So this is the comparison between pre-test and post-test loops. And loops in C language, we have three different types of loops: while loop, do while loop, and for loop. While loop, do while loop, and for loop. In these three, while loop and for loop are pre-test loops. While loop and for loop are pre-test loops, and the last one, do while loop, it is a post-test loop. While loop, for loop, pre-test loops; do while loop, post-test loops. Okay, in C there are three types of loops. While and do while can be used as event controlled loops, because we are framing the condition, and that condition change, it sometimes depend on the events. Okay, so if you have something to be if you want to control the loops based on events, so what are events and how we can handle these events, all those things, it is a higher level language concept. Event control we don't have over here. So simply you remember, event controlled loops are your while loop and do while loops. Okay, then your for loops, they are counter controlled loops. As event control concept is not there in C language, we make this while loop and do while loop also as counter controlled loops only. Okay, we make them as counter controlled loops only, and we use them like counter controlled loops only. Event controlled mechanism, it is not there in C language. In our it is there in C language, but in our discussion it is not there. How we can handle, how we can control the loop with the help of an event. Okay, by generating an event. Event is nothing but some external action, some external force to be applied. So that external force application we rarely do in C language. Okay, so while loop and do while loop, they are event controlled loops, and your for loop, it is a counter controlled loops. Okay, all the three loops, they must be deal with a termination condition. Okay, a termination condition, and that termination condition is nothing but your regular condition only. We have a different terminology to treat it. We call it as a termination condition. Based on the behavior of this termination condition only, your loop will be controlled. If the termination condition is false, the body of the loop will not be considered and the loop will terminate there itself. and if the termination condition is true, then simply the body of the loop will execute, and the loop will iterate to the next iteration. The loop will continue to the next iteration. Okay, for every loop we need to have initialization, termination condition, and updation. Initialization, before the loop we do. Termination condition based on the loop type. If it is a pre-test loop, we mention the termination condition before the body, and if it is a post-test loop, we mention the termination condition after the body. And the updation we always do as part of your body only. Okay, as part of your body only. Loops in C: while loop, for loop, do while loop. While loop, for loop, they are pre-test loops, and do while loop, it is a post-test loop. Okay, here I have shown with the help of a diagram here. The first one, while loop, it is a pre-test loop. For loop, it is also a pre-test loop. It is a post-test loop, your do while loop. Okay, so in our tomorrow's class, hopefully we discuss all these loop. I mean, already we had the examples, I mean, we had the concept, we had everything. Simply we have to know how we have to know the syntax of this while loop, and the what we call the program related to that one, example program related to that one. Then we have to know the syntax for loop and the program related to that one. And do while loop, the same thing. We have to know the syntax and the program related to that one. Hopefully we will complete this thing in our next session. Okay, thank you very much, students.